Since you woke up this morning, your body has deliberately executed roughly 50 billion of its own cells. You felt absolutely nothing. We assume that survival is strictly about producing new life and holding on to it. In reality, the human body requires a constant, aggressive rate of decay to function. Organized death is exactly as vital as cell division. This programmed cell suicide is called apoptosis. It is distinct from necrosis, the accidental, messy death caused by injury or infection that leads to blackening, gangrene, and inflammation. This mass suicide is the human operating system's most critical maintenance protocol. It is encoded directly into your DNA, ensuring that damaged or redundant cells are cleared before they can do harm. The process begins with an instruction. A condemned cell receives an inescapable internal chemical death signal. The cell responds with total obedience, systematically dismantling its own internal structures. It shrinks and acquires a pearly, wilting translucence as its architecture collapses inward. To prevent the spread of damaged code, the cell meticulously slices its own genomic DNA into pieces, packaging the debris into neat, membrane-wrapped bundles. This diagram shows the final removal. The dying cell emits chemical pings that attract immune scavengers. These cells engulf and consume the packaged DNA without triggering any collateral inflammation in the surrounding tissue. Without this ruthless protocol to clear out mutated or aging cells, the accumulation of broken genetic code would eventually destroy the host. Tumors are often misidentified as simple problems of cells growing too fast. The specific failure of a tumor is a failure of instruction. The internal death signal arrives, but the mutant cell refuses to obey the order. This insubordination is written in the genes. By suppressing critical executioner genes like BCL2, the rogue cell effectively cuts the communication line to its own suicide cascade. With the BCL2 gene blocked, the cell achieves a terrifying immortality. It bypasses the death order and begins to divide continuously, creating a lineage that consumes the host from within. Cancer is the consequence of a cellular organism successfully defying the body's internal order for its own disposal. If the genetic suicide protocol is otherwise flawless, what force is giving these mutant cells the biological permission to survive? Physician Gabor Mate identified a significant correlation between psychological states and the breakdown of these defenses. The chain of command can be disarmed from the top down. The brain's emotional centers have the power to influence the microscopic biological executioners operating inside your cells. Habitual repression, specifically the chronic inhibition of anger, locks the body into a perpetual defensive mode. This shifts the cellular environment away from its normal homeostatic maintenance. This triggers the HPA axis to flood the system with abnormal, sustained levels of steroid hormones like cortisol. In this state, the body's priority is immediate perceived survival, not the long-term clearance of mutated cells. These elevated hormones physically interfere with the suicide protocol. They create a biochemical milieu that makes it harder for the cell to register the internal death signal, allowing mutated cells to ignore the order at higher rates. This chronic hormonal flood disarms the cellular executioners. Unresolved emotional states physically alter the body's chemistry, allowing potentially malignant cells to survive in a system that would otherwise have erased them.